Friday, May 8th, all day, right?
All day. Yes.
Before I forget, to all of the moms out there, happy Mother's Day early.
Yes.
I'm Doug Splinter.
I'm Todd Kidda. It's Alpha Slash Friday.
Yeah. And Todd, you're up first. What do you got going on? A lot of stuff, I think.
I do have a lot of. Well, we had the Business Application Summit this week, so
a few pieces of content from there.
Yeah. So, what do you got? I know you have a demo, right?
Part 2 of our demonstration. This time we're going to do the Teams clone thing that we talked about with the Graph Explorer components and things. So that should be fun. And we're going to break down the Graph Explorer and show how to invoke the cloning of Teams and look at those custom applications we provisioned, how they got cloned in and what the user experience is of a third-party app cloned into Teams. A couple of Teams announcements, some security stuff, and that's mostly about the demo. A few news things, but mostly the demo.
I have a feeling we might go over a couple minutes, but that's okay. And we'll see if we can get it.
You can always skip ahead or pause or come back later.
You can even watch it at 2x speed later. That's a great point. So
that's exactly right.
Cool. All right. So first thing I want to call out, this is a little, we always like to call out great content. One of the most passionate people of the Power Platform that I know is his name's Alex Powers in St. Louis here. And he's currently in the middle of a 30-day Power Query challenge around query folding. And if you don't know what query folding is, but you're doing Power BI, you should definitely check this out because it's one of those ways to really that you can enhance your performance and do really cool stuff. So I thought that was pretty slick. He's doing that right in the middle of it. Feel free to jump in. So I want to call this one out. I saw this on Jeffrey Snover's Twitter feed, like right before we joined. I had to do it. And it actually, it probably elicited the wrong response in me. The response that elicited to me was like sadness, actually. These are hilarious to me. I'd say, I don't know. I'd say at least a couple times, maybe once or twice a year, I'll witness one of these, and it's just, I can't even understand.
You were a little sad that your humor was being taken away from you, I think. Am I correct about that? You're like, oh, but it's so fun. And then when people reply to all, they reply to all. Telling people not to reply to all, the game is afoot. I always love it.
It's so hilarious. I just can't even, Doug. But anyway, so and if you want to have some good reading today, go look up Bedlam 3. It's Bedlam 3, I think, right? Bedlam 3 Microsoft, BEDLAM 3 Microsoft, and just read that story. It's if you don't know that story, I'd say it was probably like 25 years ago. I don't know exactly, but it is just, it's fantastic and just a good read. But this is rolling out. We've announced this before. We may have talked about this. But basically, if you're replying to a conversation that's creating too much noise, you're gonna get a no like this. Like, there's too much things going on. Maybe you just want to wait or send to a smaller number of recipients because you're probably not adding to the conversation. So
real-time coaching, courtesy of Office 365.
Yeah. Which is what it probably means the end of Reply All Storms. So it is what it is. I'm also noticing the Power BI blog is their CSS is a little broken today. That's okay. This one is awesome, Doug. And for my people that have been around long enough in the Microsoft BI space to remember ProClarity, this is actually something that was in the ProClarity stack like a long time ago. I won't even say how many years. But this is really slick where we're now turning on the preview for personalized visuals. And this is actually fixing or denecessitating a workaround, or not a workaround, but a clever technique that people have been using to switch visuals from, maybe a line chart to a bar chart or whatever to whatever else. So this is a really nice way to let your end users kind of view the data the way they want to view it. Again, kind of really enabling self-service, but in a way that's, going to be appropriate and they're not going to break something. And it's beyond just changing the visual, right? It's like, maybe I want to look at sales quantity versus sales amount or, different filters or put things on different axes and those kinds of things. So this is really,
that's a very rich personalization of the report.
Yeah.
Now, it does mean you are allowing essentially the report to fork. Can you turn that off, or do you?
Great question. So one, yes, you can turn it off in your report. So you can choose to turn it off. And not only that, you're actually, I'm glad you said what you said, because let me clarify what's happening here. This is creating a personalized view for an individual person that gets saved, and they can save it and bookmark it for them, but it does not affect what everyone else sees.
Which is both good and bad, because if I personalize it and I forgot, right? And I'm
Yes.
like, well, if you look at the bar chart in the middle, the bar chart, so that
No,
you have that
that's
potential
another great
moment.
call out. That's another great call out. Because, and let me see if I can find this quickly on the fly here. This indicator. If you recall, yeah, here we go. In Power BI before, if you change filters and things like that, it'll kind of have this visual cue that you filtered something or changed something. You can now reset back to default.
I would hope so. Otherwise, I would have no clue what the report.
Right. Also, to your other point, man, you asking all the right questions. So if you create a personalized view and you want to actually share it with somebody, you can actually do that, because this is creating a bookmark and you're sharing that bookmark with.
Send it back to the report owner. Mine's better.
So I think that this is the first rev of this in public preview. So, and I think this is pretty rich, but I think you can imagine, I've already seen some conversation on Twitter around, I'd really like to be able to constrain the types of visuals that I let people change to and those kinds of things. So, I mean, this is just the beginning. So kind of get ready for what else is coming. You scroll past the CSS madness here. Man, April update, right? We talked about last week. The April update is actually got shipped in May. But man, this is a big one. So I talked about personalized views. That's already, we just talked about that. So that's coming in here. Change detection for page refresh. So one of the cool things that we added a while back, that we've talked about a couple times, is if you're doing a direct query in Power BI Desktop against like a SQL data source that's streaming in real-time data, it was kind of a dumb refresh, right? It's like refresh every 5 seconds. So every 5 seconds it would go out, do the complete query, and refresh everything. But you can now have this like mini query that says, has something changed? And then it goes and refreshes everything else for a much smoother experience. This is great. There's a bunch, this is, for the big TV screen type approach, where you want to keep things up to date. This is a really great option. The other one kind of related to that, if you were doing real-time data, we're giving you a relative time filter. So, only show me this chart. So you can see this chart right here is updating in real time, but it's kind of like a sliding window where I want to see data in the last minute. So it's always kind of keeping that view of the window in the chart. So that's pretty cool. What else do we got? This is for our report authors out there. People, if you're authoring reports, you were doing a standing ovation when you saw this. Being able to rectangular lasso select across visuals. So again, like if you've been using things such as Office or PowerPoint, since in the last
or Visio
20 years, right?
Or anything really. If
you had that. But again, it's we have it. So you're welcome. Conditional formatting for this one has been, people are like violently asking for this, maybe not violently, that's too strong, around conditional formatting for totals and subtotals. So that's there in tables and matrices. I'm going to skip over some of this because I don't want to.
I can see that, because that annoys me all the time.
With the table, the conditional formatting?
The summing, the conditional formatting, that makes sense, right?
Yep. So decomp, a couple things for the AI visuals, right? So the AI visuals being like the decomp tree and the key influencers. Support for direct query, so you no longer have to do import on your data to use those. That's a big deal. Tooltips for decomp tree. Q&A updates, so being able to prompt your users for suggested queries to kind of give them, here's what you can do. Because even Q&A, where you're doing natural language, the whole premise there is like enabling people that might not necessarily be comfortable with, doing their own analysis. So if you can kind of prompt them to the types of things that you can even type in, rather than just giving them a blank, blinking cursor, that could be helpful. So bunch of new visuals, man, just crazy. And there's one more thing I wanted to touch on here. And I'm going to talk about the Power Platform Center of Excellence here in a minute. And this one's really great. So a lot of people are starting to make investments in the common data folder format in Azure Data Lake Store, right? So your data engineers and your data team and your BI team are doing all this hard work to generate and curate data sets and putting them in a lake. Making them visible inside Power BI Desktop has never been better by allowing you to create this thing called a common data model format. So you basically be providing a JSON file that's describing the data, which makes the view a little nicer for your end user rather than just seeing a bunch
so you essentially get that like almost like you imported a web page type view where you the phantom table structure underneath this ADL Gen 2 construct, which might have a little more rich construct than a user can handle.
Yep. So really, really great. So there was a bunch of other stuff in there I didn't cover, so go look at that. It was a big April update. This one's really short and sweet. Sub-reports available for paginated reports. And if anybody out there has been doing SQL Server reporting services, you know that this one's necessary. Good for reuse. So that's now available for paginated reports. And I do want to call out again, and this is there's another link at the bottom of the Power BI desktop. So a bunch of things around instructor-led training for remote. And the calling back out the paginated reports in a day. Paginated reports in a day link here.
I want to do a shout out. If you did dashboard a day a year ago or something like that, and you haven't, it's changed enough where I think every year it's worth like running through the content again to look, I didn't. Otherwise, you kind of maybe stuck in old habits or you're missing capabilities. So
for sure, right? Because it's the only reason I'm able to stay on top of all the new enhancements is doing this show every week. So it's very difficult.
You and I don't have a choice really to stay current.
Which is why I would do this. I would do this if one person watched because it forces me to keep up to date. So
yeah,
I love it. All right, team links for Power BI content inside of Teams, of course. So this is really great. Like when you paste in a web page or YouTube video or a Word doc, you get a nice little preview. This now works for Power BI reports inside of here as well. So you can kind of get a preview into that and users can know what to expect.
So I was told too that's going to be the dynamic web components, the new fluid model eventually too. So that fluid framework is present within it. So that'll be...
No,
that's going to be
crazy. You can do interaction. Wow. Okay. Yeah. That'd be
it's going to get wonderful as all that moves through.
There's a little note here. So this is kind of was obvious to me at least. You still need a license to click on the thing, and this doesn't give you people permissions, right? So it's just kind of a snapshot of the report. Some nice PowerShell commandlets for making the installation and registration of data gateways much easier. We even give you a nice, where is that? Sample script, which kind of ties all these new commandlets together. So you can kind of use this commandlet as the way that you install new gateways. So love that. This one is awesome. And I've been, as people are...
Can I do an endorsement to your previous one, though? If you're talking about doing change management through infrastructure as code, this is it. This is how you should programmatically deploy, manage, update. Like this is why the Office PowerShell stuff, the Office CLI that Todd was talking about, that allows you to submit your changes for peer review through a service desk tool. And this is just meaning you don't have to rely on someone to click on the proper sequences. So this is I don't want to blow past this because this is really important for operationalization of service management, deployment, state management, configuration management, change management, all the things that like the CIS 20, the security framework, and everything else. You have to understand your environment and its dependencies. And if it's not reviewed and peered in your service catalog, you can't. And so this kind of deployment stuff is like my whole that I tuned in, and other people should too. Now you might be the data person, which means you should be partnering with your infrastructure person. All right, end of rant. Sorry.
No, I'm with you. I kind of glossed over that because I tend to take that for granted. But no, you're dead on. If you're clicking things, just stop.
Just stop. This is awesome. Yeah. I mean, then it's managed, curated, controlled, consistent. You know what it was. You know how to update it. You can query it.
Now's the time to learn Windows Terminal, right? And build beautiful things.
Look at the work you should record a video of your customizations of Windows Terminal because, I mean, it's pretty.
It makes me so happy every time I have to do something.
I gotta go spend time. I have so much time.
Dude, I'll give you my spend, man. It's so easy. I'll just give it.
One of these times, I appreciate it. Yeah, one of these times, I'm actually gonna do a show on nothing but things I've learned about Windows from school teachers. Have you ever sat down with a teacher who has to do like kids and how they lay out their start menu and whatever else it is? I no pun intended. I've gotten schooled by school teachers on Windows so many times. I should invite one to the show and have them show people like the power of Windows.
That would be so amazing.
Astonishing, right?
Okay. I'm going to take, I had not planned to talk about this either, but I'm going to have this conversation real quick. I'm probably not going to go out and find it on my Twitter because I can't do it that fast, but we announced the usage of Windows over the last month. Did you see? It was 4 trillion minutes, right? Wasn't that what it was? Yeah. And I did the math. I sat down and did the math.
Of course,
and it was something like 250,000 years a day, or I think it's 250,000 years a day of Windows use, of Windows 10 use. It's just, well, I couldn't even understand it.
And I just, like, the operating system has come so far, and we somehow, when you first learned it, it froze in your head as a memory. Same for Power BI. That's why I encourage you to go back and certain things, right? A lot of these things, somehow they just, like at a moment in time, you freeze your knowledge. And that's where our change resistance comes from in many ways. It's called initial acquisition learning, I think is the term for it. But there's something like when you first learn something, you're like, oh, well, and staying current with it, moving forward is hard. Right? And that's why we have change management frameworks like our partners ProSci for AdCar, and talk about an awareness for change, and all the different things you need as part of a change program. But anyway, I'm stalling while Todd attempts to hit his Twitter account. You're trying to find it? Yeah.
It was one of those where I just stared off into the void for a few minutes, just fathoming 4 trillion minutes a month. It's
amazing, and I do think there's a new build of Windows coming out. And so I think it's probably worth a Windows show coming up here soon to really go over how far we've come and what features are around management, deployment, and also usability. So we'll make that happen. All right.
So I did find it. It was okay. So it's 4 trillion minutes a month, and 90. Okay. So basically, the math I finally got down to, there's 95 million people using Windows at any given time. Like right now, there's 95 million people using Windows right now, like every second.
Yeah, so, and it's an around the clock thing. So as some people stop working, others keep going.
So that was 24 hours a day, 365. Yeah, crazy.
I am getting a ping that says something about our audio. So it says that my voice has an echo and Todd's does not. So I will try one small low-tech thing because we have multiple things going on, and we'll see if that fixed it up.
Well, while you do that, I'm gonna talk about my last two things here. So AI Builder, some enhancements for form processor. This one is great because now, if before it had to kind of try to detect a field for you to use it. So you'll notice in this GIF here that it didn't detect this address up here, but the user can go in and say, nope, that's a thing that I want to call address. And the forms process says, oh, my bad. Sorry, I missed that. Let's pull that in from now on. So that's a really nice one. Another one for AI Builder, now supporting multiple outcomes. So this would be like if you're a machine learning person, this would be like multi-class prediction. So the example here is trying to predict lateness of an order, right? So you can do something. And it's not just, is it going to be late? Yes, no. But is it going to be early, on time, late, or very late? So again, kind of multi-class beyond that binary prediction. That's there. So that's a nice one. And then finally, updates to the Power Platform COE Starter Kit for adoption. Some of these Power BI reports in here are just freaking fantastic around app builders, who's the top makers, where are they making, and this could be for flows and for connectors and all kinds of things. So definitely go check this out. License designation for apps, really keeping your hands on or your eyes on, kind of how people are licensing and those kinds of things. Risk assessment, oversharing. This is getting to be very mature from the COE Starter Kit perspective. Say that 5 times fast. So Doug, I went a little bit longer than I was hoping to. I'm sorry.
I asked you questions, and hopefully, Nash, you can tell us if our echo has gone away or if it remains. So we'll see what we can do on top of that.
I have on YouTube saying Travis is saying the audio sounds fine.
Huh. Well, okay. So we got we'll check it out later and see what we can do about it anyway. I'm not going to try and change it in the middle of the show, so that I've learned my lesson. I've done that over the years at times, and it was not well received.
You don't test the production, yeah.
All right, so I am going to do a little shift over here as we go live on top of things. Kind of zoom back out and get myself queued up. We're going to do a little bit of news and we're going to do a little demo. First, I want to show off. There is a you know how much I like mind map stuff, right? The
Oh, yeah.
MindMeister, it's one of the ones that I usually show when people have. So there's really interesting third-party applications within Teams, and so they have this whole other like alternative whiteboard solutions and mind mapping solutions the Teams team pushed out around using freehand, which you've never used it. It's pretty cool. On top of it, same for Mural, which is really slick for doing group visualization, retrospective, and then of course my favorite MindMeister. Now, on one of the other posts about one of the link sharing things that came in, somebody made a really legit point on one of the other team's announcements about, hey, don't forget about privacy in these third-party services you're using. And I couldn't agree more. You are consenting to certain things about this thing can read messages sent to it. Well, if it has a bot, of course it can read the messages, but you're going to have to consent to those things. So do remember the lessons we put out about application control. And I was talking to one of my enterprise customers yesterday. They're like, well, I have to approve things over an app source. I have to do some stuff in the team store. I have to do some stuff for SharePoint applications. Yeah, and the store for business. There are several surfaces that you have to go ahead and decide how permissive you want to be about these things. And you should always read the privacy policy of these third-party services. Most of them are pretty in line with what you would expect. But if you're going to put business data there, yes, that's why we give you the governance and control over what you can do with your applications. That being said, put the fun hat back on. This is really cool stuff. And from a productivity standpoint, you are enabling it within your single sign-on community from a security standpoint. So it's your identity, your data, your management, but you are using other SaaS services integrated. So you have to understand the nature of those things. And of course, if you're using things like MCAS and the rest of it, you're going to catch those privacy policies and be able to understand your attestation and everything else. So there you go. There's a really cool one with a small, still do good work around security, privacy, and governance as you explore and enable these really cool solutions. Make sure that those people's software policies, privacy, and environment attestations match the use case you're going to put in. Okay.
Awesome.
Did you know that it was World Passwordless Day?
I only because I saw the link in the OneNote. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So yesterday, I actually believe World Passwordless Day, and so it says, hey, here's what we're trying to say. All this online usage has massively increased, and people are done with passwords. And so here's the adoption curve of people who are adopting passwordless components on top of it. So here's the thing: go read the article. Take the aka.ms/go passwordless link I put in there and stuff, and start your journey towards enterprise passwordless. It's really cool. You should do it. You know how much I'll feel about multi-factor authentication. The only thing that makes me even happier than that is no credentials on the wire at all after strong initial proof, right? Seamless SSO with governed identity and attestation is my favorite.
I've been doing passwordless on some of my accounts for almost 2 years, and it still makes me smile when I have to type a password in.
I know, it's like pops up, do a multi-factor authentication, all the rest of the stuff. Okay, next one up for me, and this kind of represents the final of my news stories I'm going to cover today, is this really interesting part about, actually I think I got one more maybe on fuzzing, but there's the company did an amazing post on how to use Defender, how to get alerts on Defender ATP and bring them into your environments. And so as you look down the article, it talks about, hey, you can get alerts from Defender ATP sent via email. Yuck, right? That's personal. But again, I don't want to say that email is a bad medium, but I think it's not an awesome medium for certain kinds of alerts. And I think we just lost connectivity. Todd, can you still hear me? All right, but our videos and stuff went away. Yeah, I think. Yep, our video. So we're just lost video, right? But we still have our audio going. Okay, well, it would appear it's still streaming out. So we've lost video. If video has turned into frozen pictures of Todd or Doug, if we could get a read from YouTube as to whether we've just lost video or whether we're completely off the air, that would be great. Anyway, so I wanted to go through, because I think the content's still coming through on top of it. Anyway, so you've got the option to do email alerts inside of it. I'll roll until you can tell me that we're still going. What they talk about is doing the enhanced. You always say it's mind the gap. There's a GUI, there's an API, and there's a power something for that. So they go through a specific example of how to use the Defender ATP APIs in order to get an auth token and return specific as to how that was returned. And then they go into what Red Canary does with that kind of data. So, and how they enable it in order to do the managed SOC service and everything else that they do on top of that, which I thought was really cool. And so that's a really interesting example of basically calling out to that Defender ATP API and getting cool stuff done. Right. I mean, the video stuff was done on top of it. I mean, yeah, we still have audio. All right, so as long as we got content, seeing Todd and I talk isn't really important as on top of it. There's one other thing in the article, and I'm going to cut it off because we are running short on time, about fuzzing and how to prevent like modern web attacks and SMB over the trust things. I'll let you guys check that out on the actual post, because I want to get to part 2 of last week's demonstration, which referred to using the different applications. Now, so I'm shifting context entirely. We're going back. Last week on the show, we showcased how you can have a Power App dynamically adjust based on the team and or channel that it's a member of. So if you pay attention to our little Office Flash Friday app on screen, when it instantiates, it reads in the team ID, the group ID, the channel ID, and then notice down here, and we're just scraping the channel name, that this one has this particular data element. We had like a kind of a budget allocation example for it. So we come in here and we come into it and we say, hey, it comes in, reads in the project name, and boom, it puts it in. So here we're using what I would call vanity metadata, right? It's not some back-end tattooed attribute that people can't see. We're actually scraping off the UI, which might be something you want to do or might not be something you want to do. But either way, we want to show how you could dynamically customize the content based on vanity attributes and or authoritative attributes. And then we said you could use this stuff even if you cloned the team, right? And you'll notice in here, you can see this is actually something called off-clone1. Here's the one we built interactively with people last week. We built these individual things, we added it back in. This time I have the off-clone1. So we're going to show you how we clone that using the Graph Explorer. Make sense? All right, so I'm hopping over into Graph Explorer, and if you just go search for Graph Explorer or go to developer.microsoft.com/inusgraph, you'll get there. But just I always search for Graph Explorer and it pops up. And what I've done so far, all I did was sign in to the Graph Explorer. So you can see I'm in our little one MTC environment on top of it. And then I did the show more samples, and I activated Teams and Teams Beta just so I could see these things over on the right. And then I clicked the My Joined Teams environment, which executed this query against the graph, and it returns a list of the teams that you're in, one of which happens to be our Office Flash Friday team right here. So this is the one you and I created last week, this particular ID. And what we're going to use basically is we want to take this and we want to clone or duplicate this team. Now how you do that is if you were to go over to the API reference and you were to spin open on the left-hand side the teamwork, and then you go into team, notice there is a clone a team portion of the graph documentation. Again, this is the admin web service interface behind Microsoft 365 estate. That's what we're messing around with here. So if you scroll down on top of this, it has an exact details as to what request body needs to have. You're going to do a post to team. So you're going to send the ID of the team you'd like to clone, followed by /clone. Couldn't be any easier, right? Take this ID and clone it. So if we scroll down, then they have a sample one. It says we're going to do a post into this. We're sending in an application JSON, and here is the metadata payload that we would like to send. All right? Now, once you've cloned a team, you have some options on top of it. If you look in the middle of it, you can see parts to clone, app, tab, settings, channels, and members. I'm going to clone everything today, although you could decide to clone only portions of it. And if you say you didn't clone membership because you wanted a different membership, you made this cool template team, you would then you need to come into the groups part of the team and add or remove, add members and owners programmatically. And next week, we're actually showing you a Power App that does all that stuff. Make sense? But today is the sort of nerd under the covers portion of things. So here's our Graph Explorer. We got our ID. And I made another Graph Explorer tab. And this time, I basically said, I would like to, we made our clone 1 earlier because I wanted to test everything out. I would like to make a clone 2. We're going to call it the cloned team. Its nickname is clone 2. We're going to clone apps, tabs, settings, channels, and members. And we're going to leave this one as public visibility. And all I'm doing is doing a post against this particular hive. This is the ID that we copied from the previous step, and we're adding issue team that's sitting down in the corner over here, and if we were to click into the general channel, here's our general one for Owl and Falcon and everything else. Now, I may have not waited long enough, but normally it clones in the application as well as part of it. The first time you go in though, when you click on that tab, it's going to require that user to consent to the application. That's the part I wanted to show. It's still going to be spinning up those assets on the back end. But if you give it a minute or two, you'll notice that because you said the apps come in, the app did come in, but I had to go ahead, and the first time I clicked on it, it says, oh, this app needs to get added to this team, and someone's got to hit OK. Does that make sense? So I wanted to capture that UI, and I'll see if it's got long enough for us to go through it. But it will provision those in. It's just that different step where even though it's there and it's referenced, it was not fully populated until the first user consented to have that application put in. Now, these applications are ones that we did as individuals, if you recall. They are not organizationally published applications. Todd and I just imported it and tossed it in from the last step. So I'm going to do the test again for next week, and I'll give the results then. As what if we import it as an official organizational app? Does it still require that consent step or no? And so the goal here is to show you pretty simply what are we going to do next week through through Power App. Is we're going to have a Power App that you'll be able to pick one of these teams as a template, and then it's going to programmatically use the back-end graph APIs to generate a team. So we're basically going to put a front-end visual on top of it and dynamically clone it. This is exactly what we were doing with that new team app that's pinned to the left side of our environment. When you come into this one and you hit it, see it's going to make me do that consent, right, on top of it. You're going to have to go through and then, what's the team template that you want to pick? So you can pick from these template things. So next week, we're going to make one of these that provisions our custom application and metadata as part of the provisioning process. So it's going to break down the entire solution. You'll be able to generate a programmatically a templated team with custom web part application integration dynamically through the whole process. So hopefully that all made sense. But the key learnings are get used to the Graph Explorer and understand those functions. Understand the nature of these simple API calls you can make through the Graph Explorer to generate administrative outcomes. And then we're going to build those into some Power Apps and flows next week to kind of finish off the solution and show the whole thing. Who cares? Probably just red question marks on the screen for where our faces go, right? Which is maybe a better representation of the two of us anyway. We are using a rather odd mashup of technologies to deliver these things these days, so we appreciate your patience with us as we all fight through the internet these days. That's a wrap for me. So